Sampson, and I'm the program director for the Clear Language Lab at Literacy Works. I'm here with Sarah Glazer, our senior program manager, and Tiara Whitlock, our program manager. We also have a special guest I will introduce in a moment. We are a Chicago-based nonprofit organization that advances access to information through our community literacy program, which supports the adult education sector, and our Clear Language, which promotes the use of language, both through a social justice-driven lens. For the last several years, we've celebrated an institution that has shown leadership by prioritizing plain language, organizational literacy, and communication equity. This year, we are pleased to celebrate the Uptown People's Law Center for their work. We had the honor of working on a project with Uptown People's Law Center, also known as UPLC, last year. They are an organization based in the Uptown neighborhood of Chicago that provides critical advocacy for prisoners, tenants, and disabled people denied benefits, public. We'll talk more about the specific project that we worked on together in a moment. But first, I'd like to introduce Maurice Hughes, our special guest for this year's conversation. Thank you for joining us, Maurice. Maurice Hughes joined Uptown People's Law Center in May 2023 as an outreach coordinator. Maurice, who has been system impacted, returned home in April 22 after serving 27 years in prison for a murder conviction. Maurice is deeply passionate about helping others, and much of his focus since returning home has been spent advocating on behalf of those still incarcerated. Maurice has graduated from the Future Leaders Apprenticeship Program, where he learned things such as computer and financial literacy, fundraising, prospect research, all things 501c3 nonprofit related, as well as how to advocate for fair and better policies within the criminal legal system. In his role as outreach coordinator at UPLC, he focuses on outreach and education for the community on issues surrounding housing rights and discrimination. Thank you so much for being here today on behalf of Uptown People's Law Center, Maurice. Can you tell us a little bit more about the work you do?
And thank you for having me. Like you said, I've been here at Uptown now going on 3 years. I just made 3 years on May 8th. And mainly pretty much the work that I do here, in addition to the trainings that I do, I also read and respond to anywhere between 75 to 100 pieces of prison mail that we receive from those on the inside. And yes, and then I just try to really make connections with different organizations, specifically those that are working with returning citizens or system impacted individuals, because for the trainings that I do are mainly geared towards system impacted people. So that is kind of like my focal area where I want to make sure that that community, that demographic is getting the training, proper training on what their rights are as it relates to housing and things of that such. So yeah, that's pretty much been my role here at Uptown.
That's so cool. You're responding to all that mail. That is amazing.
Yes.
Amazing. So thank you for doing that. And I'm glad that they know to contact you. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So our organizations were able to work together on a presentation that helps to explain the Cook County Just Housing Amendment. It's an amendment that makes it unlawful for housing providers to discriminate against applicants based on criminal offenses covered under that law. UPLC's presentation helps people to learn and understand what rights they have when they apply for housing. So why do you think that plain language is so important when discussing the rights of community members, especially those who have been involved with the legal system?
I would say the bigger importance is because it's hard for you to exercise your rights if you don't fully understand what your rights are. So that is very important to me to make sure that anytime that I'm engaging with the community, whether it be a tabling event or a training, that I want to make sure that the information is being communicated properly, where those who are in attendance are able to understand that the information is accessible, that it's empowering, because I feel like the more you know, um, it just helps you feel more empowered to where you feel like you can't be taken advantage of or anything like that. So I think it's very important that people that when you're speaking with people and helping them understand their rights, that you meet them where they at. It's not necessarily about overly simplifying things, but just making it where the information is more accessible, more understandable, and that it's giving them that actionable, helping them understand what steps they need to be taking next.
Right, we say that a lot with the work that we do, that plain language is something where people can find, understand, and use the information. So it was great when we all connected that you all were doing this presentation to make sure people knew about their rights when they applied for housing, but you wanted to make sure that they understood that one, it was there, and two, what exactly it meant. So it was really interesting to go through the presentation with you all and to see like some of that stuff was there, but like you said, maybe it was in legalese or in wording that even myself couldn't understand. I found myself asking questions when I was reading through it because if you don't know, you don't know. So I
Mhm.
appreciate that you all wanted to make it accessible for the people that it was for.
Yes.
Um,
And I
what
want to say that's even for
oh, go
myself.
ahead.
Yeah, I want to say that's even for myself as well. Even doing this work now for the past 3 years, um, legal information and housing information, it, as you already said, has just a lot of legal language that makes it difficult for people to really understand. And so I'm even still now in our housing meetings every week, things are being said that I'm like, okay, what did that exactly mean? So yeah, I definitely think it's important to like yeah, you just want to make it sure that your people are understanding the information and that it's accessible for them.
Got you. As someone who used to work in housing, I was confused working there. So I understand understand your quandary. Um, just thinking about the fact that you do get so many letters from people, um, what do you feel like are the overall things that they're looking for or looking to you all to help with their situation?
Uh, well, the issues can range, so it's so many issues, but I will say this, that a lot of time, especially for people that are writing to us from on the inside, a lot of time they are very familiar. They know what it is that they're dealing with. Sometimes they're
Mm,
reaching out to just get a better understanding, to get more clarity on what,
okay.
even if it might be the law or a grievance process, things like that, because that can sometimes jeopardize whatever relief they might get if they don't fully have a good understanding of what it is that they're grieving. um, then a lot of times those get sent back, denied because they probably didn't follow something properly, didn't understand the rules or policies, whatever properly.
Gotcha.
So I just, yeah, I think that for most times, I am very impressed with how much they are familiar with the law, even though they might not use legal terms or anything like that, but they are familiar and they just really reaching out either sometimes it's for representation, but a lot of times they're willing to represent themselves. They just reaching out to us for a little bit more clarity on the information.
Right, that can provide a lot more confidence. When you know that you know, you might have an idea, but once you get that confirmation, it is a confidence boost to know you have
Absolutely.
something to stand on. I'll pass it over to Sarah.
I think everything you're talking about like uh people already right respecting and recognizing the knowledge people already have. They do know a lot, um and that it can be tricky when we expect people to fit into very specific language and how they talk about things, and like that's often where challenges can come into play. And I think that leads in very nicely to our next question, which is the presentation that we worked on with UPLC was really to make sure people could that the information was clear and understandable for anyone who participated. And so we tried to employ these plain language principles. And we're curious, how do you think plain language relates to trustworthiness? Do you see a relationship there between communication and trustworthiness as an organization?
Oh, definitely. I feel like when people feel as though the information you're giving them is like very straightforward, very easy for them to understand. It also allows them to be a little bit more engaging, a little bit more open with what they're sharing with you. I know here at the office, a lot of time the attorneys they joke how just by them showing up present themselves as an attorney already for some people they might have certain distrust with even for attorneys. So if you when you can show up and you're basically meeting someone where they at and you're speaking not necessarily using all these legal terminologies and things like that, I think that kind of does put someone at ease. They feel more supported because it almost feel more like it almost feel your interest is just more personal as to what they're going through versus you're just coming at them with a bunch of like, oh, the process is this, and then you file that, and so that would be that's my take. I definitely think that it creates a lot more trust when you're just speaking more direct with someone and making sure that they're able to follow and understand what it is that you're explaining to them.
Yeah, and I think it sounds like the idea of that it shows a level of understanding and respect to communicate with someone where they're at. And like, those are important pieces of trusting. Why would you trust someone who doesn't communicate with you in a way that feels respectful and that feels like they see you for where you are? Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. Um, and then we're kind of thinking about as we went through this process of changing the presentation, and also now you've been using it with community members. Is there anything that surprised you? Anything surprising about the process of kind of plain language translation, or now that the presentation's being used, any insights on how community members have reacted to it?
Well, I want to share 2 points on that. When we did work with you all to like improve our JHA slides, as we spoke about at the top of the interview, myself being system impacted, someone who served 27 years, now doing these trainings, conducting these trainings throughout the city, I want to make sure that the people that we're educating on these conducting these trainings with, one, I want them to feel respected. One, I want them to be able to focus on the information. I want them to be able to focus on the information without necessarily feeling triggered by anything, whether that might be language in our slides, whether that might be images in our slides. So I so appreciated the fact that those things that I had concerns with and that I shared with you all was able to like make those adjustments. I just love and appreciated how thoughtful you all were into like making sure that those things that those changes were made in a way that where people can they don't feel disrespected in a way, because even sometimes with your even in your best intentions, sometimes you can still come off a wrong way if you're not, So I love that fact there, just how helpful you all were with that. And I would say, I don't necessarily know if I have any that I can speak to where someone said versus the new slides versus the old, but I do know that almost every time I do these trainings on the Just Housing Amendment, people are always coming up to me afterwards telling me just how informative it was, how easy it was for them to follow the slides and follow the information. So I definitely think what you all helping improve our slides it's been great for us, and it's been great for our participants as well.
That's so awesome. Yay. It makes us feel so happy to hear that people are responding things to the work that we've supported with in the real world in a positive way, because ultimately we're all doing this because we want people to have the best lives available to them, right? And making that as real as possible for folks. Um, and and to say too that like working with partners like you who who bring such insight to the work that you're doing and have things that you care so much about the work that you're doing and know so much, and having those very specific uh things in mind that you want to change, that you want to tweak, and being able to be in partnership in creating something really makes the process so uh more fun and enriching and enjoyable for us too, because it really feels like a partnership. We're not just telling you what to change, right? But
Yeah,
we're meeting
yeah,
each other in the same way that we're talking about you wanting to meet community members where they're at. Like we're also trying to meet each other where we're at in this work in improving communication. So I'm very happy to hear that that was a positive part of the experience for you. Uh, and I'll pass it off to Melanie.
I can't stop smiling. I think I just to build off of what you both just said, I think that's such an important part for us is recognizing like the folks that work in settings like you. You're the experts on your work. You do this work every day, and it's such a better result when we can confuse those our love of plain language and your expertise together. That's like our I think our ideal dream scenario always when that happens. So just really, really happy that we got this chance to work with you all on this. Um, Maurice, is there anything else you want to add about just things you've already mentioned your experience working in outreach with community members, but is there anything else you'd add about things you've learned from working with community members on this work that you might give insights to other folks that are in the nonprofit field or anything in that realm?
Um, again, I would just say I'm always impressed just how um familiar people are with the issues that they are experiencing. I'm always impressed just by uh how much even with the details and things that they have. But it's like I say, they come to us a lot of times because it's the legal aspect of it that can be intimidating, understanding the processes. And then sometimes it's a matter of them just even wanting to verify the information because you got to also think people are getting conflicting information a lot of times as well, whether it might be from a friend, a neighbor, and sometimes even institutions themselves that are doing, say, the work. They can reach out to one housing organization and they might get information that conflicts with another, so we just always want to try to be as diligent as we can with helping people with say where they all what they already know, what they already understand about the process, and help just crystallizing that a little bit more for them. So like I said, I don't never want to come from a place where I feel like I'm either speaking over someone's head or talking down on them. I want to meet them right there where they feel supported. And so yeah, I'm always impressed by just how much information people, and as well as how much they're willing to like just advocate for themselves. But sometimes they just, like I say, they might just need a little bit more help understanding the processes or whatnot. And I just love the fact that what you all have given me, because someone as myself, as a system impacted person, I too came home thinking that I had lesser rights than what I actually have, and so sometimes a lot of people in the community are dealing with a lot of like navigating a lot of stressful situations. And so for me, anytime they can come to us, especially in the height of those stressful situations, and that information they are still able to follow and receive that information, to me, I think that's the thing that I want to stress for organizations as to why this is so important. Always lead with accessibility. How accessible is this information? You don't want to leave no room for anyone to fall in the gaps. We want to make sure everyone is getting the help and the support that they need.
Ah, so many nuggets you just said there. I love your point about like people aren't empty vessels, right? They have rich lives and lived experience, and it's so important to raise that up and recognize that, and not talk at people and really actively listen to what people need. And I think that goes back to just the foundation of like who am I talking to? Who is my audience, and what are they looking for, and making sure we think about all those things before we start any kind of work like this. So yeah, thank you for highlighting that. I think that's
Yeah.
so important.
And I
Um,
thank you for highlighting, because you just said something too, Melanie. Definitely always one of the things that I've learned doing this work is it's always better to listen first before you start explaining. Listen first, because doing this work, you can just get in the habit of just someone start with something, you think you already heard it, so you already know what the problem is, and you want to, hey, maybe you should do this. No, listen first, and then it's you can explain or chime in. But that's one of the key things that I think is so important, is just to listen to what people have to say first, and then see where you can help and assist them at.
That's such a good point. And I think we kind of talk about that a lot in training, where even though you might feel like you've said something 100 times to 100 people, this person in front of you is brand new, and you have to kind of just forget all that and start fresh with this person in front of you, because they're going to have their own unique story and their own questions and their own needs. Yeah, such a good point. And it's so easy for people to kind of forget that. Um, this has been so lovely talking with you. Is there any advice you'd give other organizations about making sure they use plain language, or any other aspect of communication that you'd really want to drive home to anyone else doing similar work?
Yeah, involving the community, especially if you're conducting slides, or you're thinking about doing some type of trainings or anything, or either one page of Know Your Right. Share that with the community, and I think that process is one that I believe the people in the community can easily identify issues and things that, if whatever it is that you're trying to put forth, I think they can identify whether that information is clear for them, or if there some changes might need to be made, if that information is accessible and easy to follow. So I would definitely suggest involving the communities more, community members more, and allow them to be that soundboard who you run things past and get feedback from the community.
That is such I think, a perfect landing point for our conversation. Thank you so much for joining us today, Maurice. And it's been so wonderful to work with you and your team at Uptown People's Law Center. And we're happy to uplift the work you all do to provide communication equity and meaningful social change for underserved communities. So thank you so much.
Thank you
And
all as well.
yeah, we
Yeah, thank
appreciate
you
you.
all for the great work you all doing. And yes, I would definitely suggest any organization reach out to you to help, better improve their materials or whatever. But I definitely appreciate you all so much. And like I say, every time I do these trainings, I'm always getting people coming up to me afterwards, just telling me how much they love the slides. If I can share the slides with them, So thank you all again.
Thank you, Maurice.